Well, we take a break from the equity markets. Let's focus on the rupee. That's showing strength. In fact, it's moving towards the 73-odd mark. Lata joins us in the studio to run us through what's going on there. And also we have a guest. Mr. Prasanna joins us to run us through this discussion. Lata, over to you.
Thanks a lot. I mean, actually, it's firecrackers, fireworks in the rupee and fixed income market. The bond, the 10-year bond is back at its early August or end July levels. And that means it's like at 5.95. There's a huge rally out there in the bond markets because of the Reserve Bank's multiple steps and the currency as well. The dollar costs only 73.12. I think that was last in January or thereabouts. So clearly a huge rally both in the rupee and in the bond markets. To put into context everything that the Reserve Bank did yesterday, because they are the authors of this rally, we have with us Prasanna from ICICI Bank. Thank you very much for joining us, Prasanna. I mean, this is quite a surge. Why are the bond buyers so happy?
So, Lata, the RBI never sleeps, isn't it? So they nearly took the thunder away from the Q1 GDP reading that came out yesterday. So what they announced yesterday was almost like a mini credit policy, if you will. And both actions and words both speak loud and clear, and that they are really here to manage the borrowing program very well, and they will not let yields rise beyond a point. So there are a few obvious messages that they put out and a few messages that you will probably have to read between the lines. The first obvious message, of course, is the fact that the HTM hike is extremely positive for the banking system, and they've hiked it from 19.5% to 22%, and it has significant implications for both the banking system as well as the real economy. So what is happening, Lata, was that with the surfeit of liquidity, both the primary liquidity supplied by RBI as well as the deposit growth in the banking system, which was as a result of the household savings actually shifting more towards safe haven bank flows, bank deposits, it was actually accompanied by low credit growth and hence very limited avenues for banks to deploy without assuming credit risk, which at this time was a very, very definite deterrent due to the risk aversion in the banking system. Now, this deposit growth was, however, matched by high government bond supply. And it was quite obvious that in the absence of the ability to lend, the banking system will have to actually end by investing more towards bonds, leading to much higher recognition of market risks in the balance sheet. So this would have created a good amount of pressure on bond yields in the remaining part of the financial year, as the government kept borrowing, but the banking system didn't have the space to really take the position. Now, the current measure, what it does is it actually opens up the space for banks to add close to something like 3.5 lakh crores of bonds in its books, without the need for recognizing the mark-to-market impact by actually classifying them in the HTM category. So this is a win-win for both the banking system as well as the government. So it is indeed a very, very good measure. The second most, I'll just make the second point a little short. The second more obvious thing was the fact that RBI actually allowed the commercial banks to reverse the funds availed under the long-term repo operations, which was borrowed from the RBI at a fixed rate of 5.15%. So when it happened in the month of March, in the first week of April, it really looked very attractive. But today, since it is high-cost borrowing, they have actually allowed the commercial banks to repay that loan. And this is also a master stroke. Because from the banking system perspective, banks borrowed nearly 1,25,000 crores from the RBI in the form of LTRO at 5.15%, out of which 25,000 was for 1 year and 1 lakh crore was for 3 years. Now you are actually able, and you know that the interbank rates are close to 3.5%. So at the margin, you can assume that the entire banking system overall was actually losing something like 1,600 crores or 1,700 crores by this difference in interest rate. Now, by actually allowing the banks to giving them the option to repay these loans, they've actually, plugged that potential loss for the banking system, and the banks can actually, go and repay that. So both of these things are the very obvious messages. There are very few other messages which are there, which you will get when you read between the lines.
How much did ICICI take under the LTRO at 5.1? So how much are you likely to benefit?
Lata, are you serious? You're going to expect an answer for me from that? No, I can't give you
Ashwini Bhatia gave us an answer. SBI gave us an answer.
I can speak for ICICI. So I can say that the banking system has taken 1,25,000 crores, and the banking system is going to gain.
Okay. What is the you kept twice saying that you can repay that money. You're not saying replace that money. So it is not going to be, I mean, how are you expecting the RBI to play this? That you return the 5.1 LTRO money and in exchange borrow at 4%? Or you can just return and not have to replace?
Yeah, exactly. I think what you said in the second part of your statement is possibly true. There are some banks who would, or rather most of the banks would be in surplus liquidity situation, which means they're actually going and giving money to the Reserve Bank at the reverse repo rate of 3.35. So for those banks, it will actually make imminent sense to just simply repay to RBI because their opportunity cost is 335.
Okay.
But for banks which are not necessarily surplus and not giving deploying money at 335 to the Reserve Bank, those are the banks which will possibly avail of a fresh liquidity at 4% and then go and repay this at 5.1.
Okay.
So
Now,
it depends upon every bank.
Now, actually, quite a few bankers were wondering why would you want a term repo facility at all? Because even in an advanced tax scenario, the surplus liquidity in the system looks adequate. So the interpretation is that the Reserve Bank is actually reducing the liquidity in the system. Would you agree?
No, Lata. I think the way I wanted to read it is that see, a lot of money. Two things actually. One was a lot of money was coming into the country through SPI and FDI flows, and what the RBI was doing was to protect the rupee from appreciating by intervening in the spot market, and that was leading to a lot of liquidity which was already very surplus, and so they were sterilizing that liquidity by going and paying in the forwards market.
Yep.
Now, actually, what they have done is they have figured out another way to actually sterilize that liquidity, which is to simply give the flexibility to banks to repay that money.
Okay.
And what this will do is RBI can do two things. One is they can be a little bit open towards allowing the rupee to appreciate. They might not want to, intervene and prevent the rupee appreciation as they were doing in the past because the reserves are quite high right now. The second thing is also that it opens up the ammunition for them to do other liquidity infusing operations like OMOs. So I think that's the flexibility on both sides, both the FX side as well as the rupee side.
That was what I was driving at, that maybe they're reducing the liquidity so that they can create it by buying bonds. They're perhaps opening a space for themselves for doing open market operations of purchases of bonds. Very quickly, what is your range for the rupee now after what the Reserve Bank said that appreciation is good?
So ever since emerging market currencies have started appreciating, Lata, so we changed our view from a mildly depreciating view to appreciating bias on the rupee. And what was stopping us only was the fact that the RBI was actually coming and standing and intervening and picking up all the dollars that was coming in. So now this action and the words yesterday in the policy which actually talked about them admitting that appreciation of the rupee is actually helping imported inflation to come down, actually kind of gives me a sense that is there a change in strategy from the RBI perspective, and are they going to be a little bit more hands-off from rupee intervention strategy as we go forward? So I would actually now admit or submit to a kind of an appreciating bias on the rupee. But of course, global factors are also important. You would know that the dollar index is actually falling quite a bit as we speak, and it's now below 92. It's fallen by nearly 7-8%. Interesting thing in the last 1 month was that so far emerging market currencies were not appreciating. Now they have started appreciating. So I would have an appreciating bias, maybe 72.5 to 74.5.
72.5 to 74.5. Okay, thank you very much, Prasanna. Out of time, but this is a seminal change that Prasanna is pointing to. RBI saying it is okay with an appreciating currency, or almost something to that effect. Out of time on Chartbusters. Mangalam and Nigel, thank you very much for this very interesting conversation that you have permitted on the money markets.